Welcome everybody, I'm Santiago Nieland and this is The Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. In today's episode, we're redefining the end times. Not as destruction, but as transition. Not the end of the world, but the end of an old world and the birth of a new one. Joining me is Diane Labrecque, a longtime Urantia Book student, Unity ambassador, and devoted follower of the living Jesus. Together, we'll explore cosmic cycles, global transitions, and humanity's spiritual awakening, reframing fear into meaning, hope, and purpose. So welcome, Diane. Like always, it's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure, reciprocal pleasure, especially on that special day.
Especially today that we chose to talk about these topics on Valentine's Day, which is today, so we can spread the love, which, like you always said, Jesus is all love. So we're going to be talking about
Absolutely.
all of what this means. So, diving into our first segment to this conversation and talking about what all this concept of the end times, which, like we said, is more of a end of a period, end of a cycle. Let's talk about the cycles of life and the universe. So let's zoom out always to the cosmos. The universe moves in cycles, expansion and contraction, birth and renewal. The Urantia Books calls this space respiration. Nothing is wasted, nothing truly ends. Everything transforms. We see these patterns everywhere in tides, seasons, seeds, and even caterpillars dissolving before becoming butterflies. Humanity is not collapsing, we're metamorphosing. In this segment, Diane and I explore how cosmic cycles help us understand this moment, not as a crisis, but as a turning point filled with meaning, wonder, and growth. So, how can we define these cycles, Diane?
Well, I would say, first of all, Santiago, that one of the most beautiful teachings of Jesus is that let those who have eyes see. And so for those who have eyes to see, it's been happening for quite a while. And what I have been observing is, and many have been observing, is that we are like at the end of a cycle, when it ends like that. But then at the same time, there's a birth of a new cycle. And it's where they meet at the X, that I would say we are in right now. We're swimming in it. So some people don't see it and they're still wondering, like, what's happening? It's the end of the world. No, it's the end of a world. Big difference. It's not the end of the world. It's the end of a world, and it's the birth of a new world. And that is what is extraordinary. And at the same time, it's almost like a balance of the two, because on one side, we can see the disappearance of more darkness and the appearance of more light. And what is Jesus? The light of truth. And so we're watching all over the world, and there's a lot of truth that's coming up to the surface, and people go like, oh my God, I did not know this. I did not know that. Well, yes, welcome to the club. We're waking up, we're opening our eyes. And so it's that cycle that we go we go through as individual, as society, as planets, as a world, as the cosmos, right up to paradise, So it's an unending cycle, and it's one intertwining into the other, and it's a dance. It's a beautiful celestial dance.
I like this, and in a way, what we're seeing is this what you just said. That we are, as individuals and society, and then planet, universe, and the existence. The supreme, which is the evolution of God out of everything. So, I like what you're saying, that this is sort of the transition. It's like when you're going from childhood to puberty, or from puberty to adulthood. There are some things that you have to leave behind, and then it's a little bit sad in some cases. You have to, maybe when you're transitioning from being a child to an adolescent, some of the things of being a child, you lose that innocence, but in a way, you start to acquire wisdom. You start to acquire, a commitment, or maybe to be accountable. So you're finishing a cycle. You're finishing that cycle of being a child and going into another cycle. And it's one is not better than the other, but you're leaving that. You're evolving. You're becoming more mature. And I like this, that instead of seeing, an end, because when in your life you transition from one stage to another. It's not the end of your life, it's just a transition. If I see it that what we are all going through, situation in the world, and I don't think it's only happening to our planet. I think it's happening in a cosmic level. I understand it better how we're going and we're experiencing these growth pains, going from one
Yes.
season to another season, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I really like what you said because you just brought back to my mind an experience I lived this week. I went to a client of mine, and she has a beautiful center for babies, for
Mm-hmm.
children, for newborns, and all that. And as I was just getting ready to leave, I saw this dad. And you know that today fathers are very, very involved with their children. Before it was more like dad goes to work and earns a living and mom stays there. But no, it was a couple right there. And I looked at it and I said, "Oh my God, it looks like it's a very young baby you have." And then the father, oh my God, he looked at me like so proud. I'm the proud, father of this child. The mother, and I looked at her and I said, "Congratulations." And she looked at me like, "Thank you so much." And I said, "How young is that baby?" And the father said, "A week and a half." And I went,
Barely.
"Oh my God." It's what I call them balls of love, little baby love. And it was all love, little like this. And it was so beautiful. And I thought, my God, a week and a half, that means 10 days. Last week, because we were in the middle of this week. So it was last week. It was a little boy. He was still in your
Mm-hmm.
tummy, mommy. He was still there inside you, and now he's among us. And then I reflected, I like that because we know, you and I, and most people know that God works in numbers of seven, 1, 3, 7, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It just made me reflect newborn, and then infant, and then toddler, and then
Mm-hmm.
boy and little girl, and then adolescence, and then adult, and then seven, elderly. So we go through the whole cycle. So
Yeah.
when you look at little children, you don't get mad at them if they're playing with a little truck because they're 3 years old. But when they're 20 years old, they went through another cycle. So life is that's what I call a dance. It's a dance of a very rhythmic dance. So we just have to learn to dance with it, to follow that rhythm. And then we don't dramatize so much, even what's happening on the planet right now. Some people are dramatizing like it's the end of the world. It's not. It's a big change. It's historical and biblical. So it's transformative.
Well, let's talk about these times, and I think I mean a lot of what I talk about and I teach is that if you reflect on your own cycles, on your own life, you kind of understand the bigger cycles. I mean, because everything follows patterns, and the more you understand a pattern from a system,
Mhm.
then you can understand another pattern. So like you're saying, we always go, and especially when we look at the hero's journey, and I think this is a very powerful way of looking at it, and when we use that a lot here in the podcast, there's always a part that even though you have wisdom, even though you reach this level, you go through a transition period. And we're going to talk about seasons in the second segment. But I see that as long as we understand these patterns, and I always taught, that in when you look at waves in the ocean, you have to look at the pattern, and it's always, sequence of shorter waves or and then stronger waves. But you have to understand it depends on which ocean you're looking at, what pattern. But you have to understand each one of it. I mean, each a particular pattern, and I think that's the important thing in life. It's not that you're going to understand everything. I think that it's very important that first you look at it, you try to blend with it, you try to understand it, and once you understand how it's breathing, and we talked about this, the earth, the world is kind of breathing, and these are the patterns of the breath. Once we understand those cycles, and that's why meditation is so good, because you kind of go into the rhythm, into the pulse of the universe, and that's when you start to flow and start to work together with the celestial agencies, with God, in moving forward, but yourself and collectively, right?
Yes, and it's really nice because I'm here in Canada in Montreal. So, needless to tell you, it's winter, it's cold,
Yeah.
lots of snow. But it teaches us one thing, that just like nature has seasons, humans have seasons. And planets have seasons as well. Societies have seasons. So right now it's cold. So we just have to learn to adapt to it. I'm not going to go out. I'm telling you, I'm not going to go out just with a shirt. I know I will catch a cold or get ill. So you need to learn to adapt. There's a season in your life when you are in your spring, when you are in your summer, when you are in your fall. And then no surprise that winter comes. So it's the same thing as a society, even as a country. So it's really cycles within cycles within cycles. And it's to find a harmony, a balance, and to have this inner connection so that you don't feel lost. It's like a leaf being detached from the tree. God incarnated in his son, Jesus Christ Michael, is like the tree of life. And so we are his leaves. Are we attached to him, or are we roaming around in the wind, like on our own? And then let's not be surprised if we hit ourselves and with a few bangs, that hurt. Or if we learn to know where to stay and to connect with, and life becomes so harmonious, so peaceful and beautiful. Doesn't mean to say that bad stuff doesn't happen, but you go through it more smoothly.
Yeah, I think that's what's important. Once you start to know the rhythms and the cycles of life, and I mean, I wanted to, and we're gonna in the third segment we're gonna talk about the Team Jesus Worldwide and much of what you do, but I wanted to see how you understood these cycles. I mean, I wanted to see your in your personal experience, how has been your life and how have you evolved, from maybe, and we talked about this early conception of God, of Jesus, even, and how life and has brought you new conceptions and has evolved you in that relationship with God and with Jesus, and what has that brought you, that that sequence or that evolution in your thought, in your relationship, brought to you?
Well, first of all, I have to say Jesus has always been in my life. Being born in Quebec, it was Christianity. And so I've always been in love with Jesus. And I did say on another podcast, as I was invited to do another podcast, I do remember when I was uh, a young little girl just starting in life, maybe 5 years old. I was just starting school. Here, depending on your birthday, you start at 5 or 6. But anyway, all this to say, one morning I came down for breakfast. I come from a family of 12, so we were many people. My mom was doing breakfast, and I came downstairs and all happy. And I said, Mommy, it's so nice. Last night I went to heaven and it was so beautiful. And I was like so impressed to share this as a child, and
Yeah,
it was
I
such
imagine.
a great experience. But then as a mother, I understand now. As an adult, I understand. But then she said, yeah, it's okay, Diane. Just come on. I don't want you to be late for school. Go have your breakfast with everyone else. And I went like, nobody believes me. So I kept
Yeah.
it to myself. But all this to say that I have adapted to the seasons of my life. But at the same time, Jesus has always been in my life. He's blessed me with many experiences. And so I don't need to be convinced. I would rather hope to convince others, but all this.
That's what I like in the stories that, I mean, especially your story, that your evolution and your relationship with Jesus has always been there, and how you've been from a young child, very innocent, very surprised and maybe naive, or yeah, innocent. I don't want to say naive, but that we were saying, that innocence that you lose when you start growing up, and but now that you're older, and that relationship has evolved into a commitment with Jesus, into a communion, not only a commitment, no, that I see in the work that you do, that you dedicate your your time and your mind and your energy to fulfilling what he brought and what he taught about the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. So I see, and that's what I wanted to point out because I think it's a beautiful story and how in your relationship with Jesus.
I dedicate not only my time, Santiago, and this and that, I dedicate my whole life, my entire being, my soul, my spirit. He knows 24/7, and he needs us. He needs us. And so I am totally, it's one thing to, I think it's like the Trinity, okay? It's one thing
Hmm.
to know about Jesus. I would dare to say that most people on the planet have at least heard the name Jesus. So, they know that there's a Jesus. Then it's one thing to know about the teachings, the life and teachings of Jesus, whether it's from the Bible, from the New Testament, from the Urantia book, the Revelation, which is a revelation in itself, you know. But it's another thing. That's only phase 2. It doesn't stop there. Phase 3 is the culmination of all it, and that is on this beautiful day of Valentine's Day, is to become in love with Jesus. Come to be, not just become, but come to be literally in love with Jesus. And then his life it moves from a black and white movie to a colorful movie, everything is colorful, everything has meaning. You understand? I see myself, um, I would say the child is coming back in me because
That
when you said earlier a little child, instead of to, if I may add, to innocent, I would say pure. A child is
that's good.
pure,
Yes.
has not been corrupted, has not been misguided, has not been ta 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 duped or fooled or whatever. So we are pure and everything. And this is why Jesus said, "What you do to one of my little ones, when you meet my father, you'll wish you had never existed," because they are so pure. Like that little 1.5-year-old baby this week. It was like a ball of love. All they want is, "Daddy, mommy, love me, take care of me, and keep me warm. It's cold." But I'm making a joke, but it's true. They just need to be loved and taken care of and cherished. So when we are children like this, I was pure. I was just in love with Jesus. And
I like that.
when I say Jesus, I need to everyone to know that it's always the Father and the Son. Like Jesus said, he who has seen the Son has seen the Father, because the Son and the Father are one. So when I say Jesus, I mean God the Father automatically. So there's no separation for me, even though he came for his purpose.
I like that. I like what you're saying about me being pure, and that's the word you said it right. It's not naive. It's not innocent. It's pure. And I like what you're saying. You've been through all this through your life, and in your relationship started maybe innocently, naively, pure, went through all this, acquired all this wisdom, and now I see you coming back to that purity, watching and living as a child, that relationship with Jesus, but with all the wisdom that also entails, with all that responsibility, with all
Yes.
that knowledge, with all that relationship building, let's say, that you've had with Jesus, with God, like you're saying. So I think this is a very interesting way to see how we as individuals have cycles and how the universe, our society, civilization is going through a cycle, and I mean we're going to be talking in the next segment, which is going into the seasons of life. But I think it's quite good to say or to conclude in this first segment how we just need to go with the flow, understand the patterns, understand the cycles, understand that sometimes you don't want the weekend to end, but yeah, Sunday has to come, and then you start Monday. But you're gonna get to Friday eventually, and then you're gonna get to the weekend again. So everything is a cycle, and as we see ourselves and we watch, even the hardships. I like a Buddhist expression that says, "Even this will pass." And I think that's very
Yes.
important because sometimes you're in such suffering that even that will pass eventually. So it's very important that we understand that life and the universe works in cycles, right?
And I would like to say one thing, Santiago, and that is when I mentioned pure. I feel that I am reconnecting with that purity in me, because coming from a large family of 12, you are affected by people around you. And even within my family, I remember I had one of my brothers, he liked uh, to tickle us and get at us, and always uh, try our patience or whatever. And so all this to say, after this, when I went into society, grew up like we all do, I became very, very sensitive to if people would hurt me or say words that would be hurtful, or they would not mean necessarily, they would not have necessarily only pure motives. And so you develop a protection, and so you go into another phase. But now I realize that I'm reaching a stage where I don't really care about the outside anymore. What
Yeah.
what really, truly, and honestly matters in the universe through eternity is my connection with the divine within. So he's with me, and in me, he's with us and in us. And what matters is my connection to be one. In yoga, when you do that, you make
Hmm.
one, you unite. And in French, communion is beautiful because com means as, and then un is one, eon, as one. You become as one. And so this is why I'm finding my child's pure heart again, because I really don't want to care for what, if people are mean, or
Yeah.
if they're nice, thank you, God bless you. And if they're not, you just move on, you bless them. You don't even spend energy feeling bad.
Yeah.
But that's the cycle we have to go through, because as in the middle of the cycle, we are very affected by society, and it has a big impression on a person. But we have
Yeah.
to learn to transcend that and develop the wisdom to connect with the divine. And if he's happy, I'm happy. If he's not happy, I'm not happy. That's it.
Yeah.
Simple.
Very important to go beyond the situations, and not just to take what is outside as it is, and go inside, and really transform inside of you, and
Yes.
like you said, go involve, and remain pure. I think that's very important. This last segment was cosmic. This one is personal. It can feel like we're living in winter, uncertainty, tension, darkness. But winter is never the end. It's a preparation for spring. Jesus spoke of this in the parable of the fig tree. When new leaves appear, you know summer is near. Right now, the old world is fading and the new world is being born. At the same time, and this is a real challenge, and there is a real light breaking through. In this segment is about trusting the seasons you can't fully see yet, and having faith in what's growing beneath the surface. So let's talk about now the seasons. We talked and we explained how life is cyclical, both personally as the human collective, civilization, even cosmically, the universe is going through cycles, and that's what we're going through. But now let's talk about the seasons. We're going from one season, and I like this one specifically that we're living, which is a winter, and how everything is cold. Everything, there's no leaves. Everything seems to be dead, but in a way, we can see that everything is resting. It's dormant. Everything is getting ready. And I always like the analogy. What I teach in the Mayan mathematics is it talks about the sun. The four stages of like a seed when it's being planted and when it's sown. And winter is the last stage, is the last quarter of let's say this sequence, where everything is left to faith. If you were good in your intention, if your actions, if everything that you put your heart and soul into that seed that you planted,
Yes.
eventually what's going to come out, what's going to be sown, is something beautiful. It's a fruitful tree, that has the fruits of the spirit. But if you put in bad things, bad intentions, everything, what's in it, what's going to sprout? So think of seasons, and think of these transitions as like I said, winter to spring, as an act of faith, where you're just letting God take its work, and letting it come to life with the best intention. So what can you tell us about this, Dan? I know it's a hard topic, or it's a interesting concept, but what can we explain to our audience about how we move in seasons?
Well, if we take the season that we are in now, winter, one of the beautiful gift of that is that first of all, we know that when comes winter, we have to protect ourselves, and symbolically as well as truthfully, And
Mm-hmm.
what we can do is we stay within, but not only within our home, within our being. And so that is a perfect timing to commune and get even closer to our creator, the creature, small c, with the creator, capital C, and have them do one on one. And in that peace that is beyond all understanding. And it's amazing how the fruition starts to, first of all, take roots. If you don't take root, if it doesn't take root, it won't last long. And so the deeper the root, the better the fruits of the spirit. And so it's a season to be careful, cautious. If you go outside, what do? We protect ourselves. If we drive here, I'm talking about here in Montreal and around, there's a lot of snow. So we learn to drive cautiously. So symbolically speaking, to learn to drive ourselves, our life cautiously. It's a season like that to be cautious and watch and all this and be careful not to hurt others. And at the same time, to stay within. I just love now the winters to stay in my, just like animals, when you go in the cavern and you just
Mm-hmm.
hibernate. I just go out if need be, but I don't go waste my time in restaurants and shopping and this and that. No, no. I need to go, I go. Then I come back and I commune. And it's unbelievable the revelations that God does. We all have a fragment of God, a spark of God in us. And if we only shut down and be quiet for a while, He's going to say, okay, now I can talk to you, because He's polite. So He doesn't talk when we talk. So He needs that we need to be silent and then listen
Mm-hmm.
to Him. And then we can talk again to Him and He can talk to us. And then it becomes a beautiful love affair of, communication between the divine and uh, the human and the divine, HD mode, human and divine. And so it is the season for that. But even then, to end Santiago, look, now the sun is staying up longer and it's bringing hope. Oh, yes, spring is coming. Oh, so we have hope. We feel better. We feel that joy. The hardest part has been through. So even as society, I feel that the hardest part we've been through. And now we're toward the end, and there's so much hope in the horizon.
And I like this that you're saying, and we're talking about this specific winter season, and we're talking about 1 year. We're talking about this is the year 2026, February 14th. Let's put it on the date, and this is the transition where, and you can feel it. Just a couple of days ago, I felt warmer. I don't want to say warm, but warmer days here.
Yes.
And that's what it starts to tell you of what's happening. But let's take this to a cosmic level and let's go beyond just this year and this season and this physical winter, and going into physical spring. What is it that's happening in a cosmic level? Because we're going as a civilization, I see a transition in this planet as the human society, human civilization. But I also see or I feel that there is a cosmic transition as well that goes beyond just what's happening here in this planet, but is happening, in different places within our local universe. So, what can you tell us? What can you say that's happening? This evolution into spring in our society, in our human civilization, and our cosmic civilization. What can you tell us about this, Diane?
I feel that I observe, that's the correct word. I observe that many people are talking about, oh, the coming of Jesus, the coming back of Christ, because He did say that He's going to come back. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would say that energetically, cosmically, if we are just the smallest way attuned to what's happening, we can feel it in the air. Talking to people, they will say, I don't know how to explain it, but I just feel it. I feel there's something happening. Well, I think so too. And it's obvious that something is happening. And this is why I call it the great cleansing, because there's so much change. Let's just assume
Mm-hmm.
symbolically that Jesus would come, okay? I think you will agree with me that the planet is not in the best shape, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So a
Yes.
master, when he owns a beautiful manor, a beautiful residence, he's not going to want to come back in a dirty cesspool of all kinds of, I don't even need to say the words, okay? So
Mm-hmm.
people are being made more and more aware intellectually, spiritually, at the soul level of things that are correct to do and not correct to do, of to make corrections and all this. Because if a master wants to go back to his mansion, he wants to come to a clean house. So it's only understandable that for a while, at least for a while, there's going to be what I call the great cleansing period, when all the dirt shows up, comes up, and we find out there's this, you need to see that, and the mold, and we know. But it's only for a while. To do what? For us to get to work and clean up our act. Clean up
Mm-hmm.
our act so that spiritually we can awaken individually and collectively to rise up in our values. And if someone would come, to be able to say, welcome, and it's clean, you know? So this is why we are being called, whether we are conscious of it or not, um, to rise up the notch, you know?
And
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 to
and,
not
and
only be selfish and self-centered and me, and me, myself, and I, but instead I say like, me is the M like this. No, it's we, W. So it's not me, it's
yeah.
we. So we are,
And I like that you're saying this polarization. We're in a stage, and this is some of the other things that I teach about. You know, in the sequence, in order for it like you're saying to clean it up, you need to see it. So the way that you see it is you kind of, you know, when you had the televisions that you had to synthesize, you know, you had to kind of you know, fine tune the image, and
yes,
this is what's happening. We kind of have to fine tune
yes,
and, you know, see the shadows and the light. So and take one of the things that I think it's important, and I love the way that you are, Dan, because you're always very positive, and you're bringing this, you know, this change with full heart, and I, like, you embrace this change with full heart. But I see that there is also a lot of pain in who's not embracing this, and I think this is what's happening. You know, it's a change in the world, but we are choosing as individuals if we embrace that change, if we become part of that change, or if we're against that change. And I see that break, you know, how, you know, better people are coming up, and then suddenly even more I don't want to say eviler, but, you know, it's the contrasts are there,
why not?
right? I mean, you can see these darkness and light clashing, don't you?
And what's nice that you said, I'm very happy you mentioned that, Santiago, because it brings me back to when I was very young and learning in the Bible, you know, when Jesus spoke
Hmm.
about people saying, and right now we are hearing people saying, well, if God is so good, how can he allow this bad stuff? It starts with an S, you know, to happen.
Hmm.
Well, what did Jesus say? Even I, the Son of God, cannot even intervene because my Father gave you the gift of free will. So you get the world you deserve. It's not my Father who's going like, boo, it's going to go bad. It's look at yourself. Look at what you. This is why people are waking up. I don't know if you've observed, but planetary.
Hmm.
I am working with Jesus and around the world, and I'm observing there are so many people now who are praying, so many people who are connecting with Jesus that I call Team Jesus Worldwide. So many people are becoming conscious of their own choices that were
Hmm.
in that predicament because there's been a bad witch, you know, that did something to us. No. It's our free will. Let's
Yeah.
make conscious. choices. Let's make take conscious decisions, you know. Is it going to be not only good for me, but good for the world, good for the good of all, and the glory of God? And so we are actually, again, like a child, where I would say maybe at the end of adolescence, young,
Yeah.
adulthood. So we're learning that there's somebody else in life other than us, to work as a collectivity, to work in the spirit of love, you know. And it's really beautiful. And you know who's very, very inspiring? The younger generation. They're
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
they're so lit up. They get it, you know? And it's like so hopeful to look at them and say, you know what? Something great is coming up. It's really brewing.
No, and I see that. I think you said it. We're going from this adolescence, irresponsibility,
Yes.
immaturity, into and now we're being accountable. Now we're
Yes.
taking responsibility, and we're understanding that it's not only us being in the back seat and being a brat or being spoiled, but it's also cooperating, being a part
Mhm.
of the creation of the collaboration of creation with God. I think that's very
Yes.
important. It's one of the things that we've also mentioned in the podcast, that it's not that God is just saying what to do. It really, the existence and creation, the universe is distributive. It's something that everybody cooperates. I mean, all the entities, everybody, that even if we feel that we're insignificant and we're just human, we have a specific and special place in creation. When we assume that and when we participate, then harmony starts to come. And I see that that's the season that we're starting, Diane. That we're leaving this winter, this desolation, and maybe this also, and then we're going to talk about this in our next segment. But this old idea of Jesus into a new idea of Jesus, into not only seeing him as this divine Jesus and his divine nature, but also his human nature and how we can relate to that
Yes.
human nature and become more like him and follow that path of Jesus, right?
I think it's so beautiful that you said this. Actually, I feel a great synchronicity between you and me, because I think of something, you say it, and then you say it, and I like to compliment. Uh, yes, to compliment, to add. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
to me, Santiago, a lot of the problems on the planet are due to the fact that we've been living in our H mode, our human mode only. And this
Mm-hmm.
is why, for the longest time, I've been advocating people to live. In 2008, actually, I think I was at UCLA for an international spiritual conference, a UB conference. And
Mm-hmm.
I was asked to give a presentation. And at the time, I don't know if you remember then, but the HD mode of equipment was coming out with different
Mm-hmm.
pieces of equipment, whether it was screens or HD computers or whatever. And I was wondering what to talk about. And then I was at the restaurant and I saw this big full page ad: come and buy your HD equipment here. And so when I got to LA, I said, you know what, folks? If machines, they're just metal. They're at our service. Thank God they exist. But if machines, material machines, have their HD mode, how about us humans having our HD mode? Because machines have their high definition mode. What about us living in our highest definition mode, our human
Yeah.
divine? And when you look at when you read the beautiful, revelatory life and teachings of Jesus in the Urantia book, they tell us Jesus came with this human and divine mode. So the beauty is that Jesus was not only blah 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 just talking; he was a doer. Okay, you know
Yeah.
what, children? My children, I'll show you what it is to live in your HD mode, your highest definition mode, which I wouldn't be surprised if in many years from now, the third level, like man started as Homo erectus, like when man stood up, Homo erectus, and then Homo sapiens, the mind, and then Homo Deus, HD again. And so
Yeah.
I think that, and Jesus was the seed that was planted on the planet for the HD. a phase, of humanity. We had evolved physically, we had evolved mentally. Now it was time to educate us spiritually as HD mode, Homo Deus, our highest definition mode. And I think that people are becoming more and more conscious of this as a society, as a humanity. And it's beautiful to see people think not only in the H mode, survival mode, but HD. Hey, I want to do to you what I would like you to do to me. I'll be good to you. So
Yeah.
it's a boomerang.
And that's what I like about this concept that you defined as a human and divine mode, the HD mode, and that's we're going to close this segment and go into our next segment, which is actually Team Jesus Worldwide, the concept that you brought about living in the HD mode, the human and divine that
Yeah.
Jesus brought to our world. We arrive at the heart of this podcast. Jesus, love, and humanity's spiritual awakening. Every major shift starts with the visionaries who seem to be ahead of time. Once mocked becomes mainstream. What once felt radical becomes normal. The same is happening with the authentic teachings of Jesus. Not the religion about Jesus, but the religion of Jesus, his life, his love, his ways of living. Christianity laid the foundation, now humanity is maturing. The Ancient Book doesn't reject the past, it builds on it. And the invitation is simple. Read the life of Jesus, take one step of living faith, and let God handle the rest. Welcome to Team Jesus Worldwide. So tell us, Diane, this concept of Team Jesus Worldwide and the evolution that you're talking about in the way that we understand Jesus and we understand ourselves.
Well, Jesus has revealed many, many things to me, Santiago. And so it came on its own. I take no credit for it. I give all the glory to God in his creator son, Jesus Christ, Michael. And it's beautiful for me to be observing, watching it happen on a planetary level, step by step. And again, it's not a radical change, it's a gradual change. It's this new world. And it's just like when I was at the beginning of the organic food movement, we were
Mm-hmm.
just a few. And I remember going to start that in the big major grocery stores, and they would say like, "Are you crazy? What's that?" Today, people go in a grocery store, just a grocery store, not even a health food store, grocery store, and they say, "Oh, where is the aisle for organic food?" So we were just a few, and we were laughed at, which is a normal phase. Phase number one, they will be ridiculed. Phase number two, could that be true? And phase number three, let's embrace it. So it's the same thing now with Team Jesus. Team Jesus is rising up worldwide. I see it, I observe it, I love it. It brings me to tears. It's happening at such a subtle and not so subtle way. It's like, it's a wonder. And yet at the same time, it's happening the same time that this is happening. The old world is going down, down, down. So for some, it can be only discouraging because they only focus on that end of a time. But for the ones who are seeing the new world, it's like, oh my God. And it's living in HD mode. Jesus is the model, and it is so inspiring, and it's based on love. And that's why I said at the very beginning, it's not enough to know of Jesus. It's not enough to know about Jesus. It's not enough to know the religion of Jesus. The next and final phase, again, the Trinity, 1, 2, 3 phase, we're at phase 3 now. It's for people to gradually, each at their own pace. There's no favorite. God has no favoritism. So for everyone to come to be in love with Jesus, with the man who knows us, has been here, done it, lived it, and says, you know what? I took it all for you, children. You can start to enjoy life. Just join hands with me. I'll help you. I'll guide you. I need you as humans to get the will of my Father be done on earth as it is in heaven. And yet at the same time, you need to do your part. This is what is the HD mode, the human and divine mode. And let's be clear, Santiago, it doesn't mean to say when I say human and divine that we can say we are God. No, God is God. So God is God, it stops.
Yeah.
But we are of God. We are the sons and daughters of God. So we are of divine heritage. Are we living in our human but also divine heritage? When we punch at each other, when we shoot each other, not too divine for me, you know? So humanity is rising up in maturity and learning that war is not the answer, but it's the end of one world and the next, the birth of a new world.
And I think it's important. I mean, this human divine, the way to embrace it, and we've been saying the most clear example is Jesus in his way of living life, of having divine communion, but also living immortal life, and how important it is for us to not be just run down by our problems and by the situations of life, but to overcome them, right? To really live like Jesus valiantly and go beyond our limitations.
There's no comparison. There's no need for envy, jealousy, hypocrisy, and all this. And if someone seems to have more gift than another, no. It's just that we all have our own path to live and all this. And if one is um, more advanced in their development, the idea is to help the other ones, not to show off and to think that we're the best thing since sliced bread, but to be there and help others and our brothers and sisters who need help. And we may meet others that are more advanced than us in terms of evolution, and they also help us. So again, it's a big chain. We're one in that universal chain, you know? So again, it's a dance of love, of light, the
Of
light
killing
of.
your ego. I like what you're saying, that the advanced help the not so more advanced, and it's a
Yes.
chain. And one of the big things is not to fall in love with your ego, and to and that's how you overcome this. People that really are selfless and that are really serving other people and not looking at their own personal benefit. I mean, this personal evolution, this path forward just comes naturally to them because they're looking at the other person, not at
Yes.
themselves, and
Yes.
that's where they can really, that's when your best attributes come. I think that when you become selfless, uh, your best traits, and I also like what you said about this, that we are all unique, and that we have our unique contribution, and that we have to understand that unique contribution and bring it. So it's like, I don't want to say it's a paradox, but it's interesting to see that the less we think of ourselves and we think of others and we serve others, the more of ourselves we pour into others, the more of ourselves that we give and that we share without, pushing ourselves into others. So it's kind of a interesting way of how we aggrandize, it's not by aggrandizing our ego, but really by
Yes.
serving other people, right?
And the best antidote to me, Santiago, is to do it out of love. And again,
Yeah.
pure love. I'm not talking about all kinds of human versions of love. Some people call love when the revelators tell us we are ashamed at times to use the word love when they use the word love. And, like people go, I don't know, have a relationship with people and they don't even know their name. That's not love. And I'm not saying it's bad. No, I'm just saying out of pure love. When we do something out of pure love, what is love? Very simple. It's the desire to do good to others. And so when you
Hmm.
have that desire to do good to others, it's pure love. And then you bear the fruits of the spirit and you see it flowering all over. And again, it's I've also observed that sometimes when you meet people that tend to be envious or jealous or all kinds of opposite of the fruits of the spirit, they forgot to look at themselves to see the gift
Hmm.
they received from God. So instead of envying what the other one has, or criticizing or attacking or this or that and blah, 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 hey, look at yourself. Take a look and see what God gave you. So that instead of envying and wanting to have what the other one has, no, leave them alone. But develop what you have that is rotting in the basement of your being because you're not using it. Do you think God
Yeah,
would do you think God would be happy to say, "What did you do with what I gave you?" So let's all
yeah.
use what we have, and then it can be another wonderful human dance.
And it's really important, Diane. I think that to find and we mentioned also the concept of vocation. Instead, it's not your the mundane stuff, but it's really what drives you and what the way that you contribute and really what your calling is what you have to really bring out in the world. I think that's part of what we have to do in this experience in life is to understand, find it, because it's hard and it's easier, like you're saying, to look at the others, see their vocation or see what they have, and kind of say, it's easier to try to copy that or try to, that's what I have to do because that's what we see. But it's harder to go inside of, trying to
Mhm.
find yourself, of understand yourself, of changing yourself. And I think that's very important of attuning yourself because we're not perfect and that takes time. That is painful because sometimes we have to kill or we have to, like we were saying, go from one season to another or go from one cycle to another. But it's understanding that we're evolving and we're going to that. But how important it is to be evolving in us, be transitioning, becoming that vocation that we are, so that we can serve and become
Yes.
fully realized. I think that the most realized persons, or the most that live fully and that are happy, are the ones that they're not just they're earning thousands and millions of dollars, or they're achieving all these grandiose things. It's people that really live their life and that really, maybe their vocation is just very simple things, but they do it with all their heart, and how that really works for them and everything around them, right?
Yes, and I just had a thought as you were talking. It makes me think of Santiago, a big, beautiful philharmonic orchestra.
Hmm.
Think of a big, huge philharmonic orchestra, and the maestro is none other than the master. Okay? Now, if we look at the orchestra and it starts to play and all the instruments are there and everyone, even if there's a special violinist at the front who is just, he's been gifted. It's one thing to have talent, but it's another thing to have a gift. A talent,
Hmm.
you learn to better and develop it, but a gift is a gift. Okay. Mozart had a gift. It was just like, bang, it's still as perfect today. And so even if there's a beautiful violinist beside the maestro and all this, all the other important instrumentalists,
Yeah.
musicians, are they going to go jealous like, why him and not us? No. Hey, play your part because he's going to come out perfect like I want him to be perfect because of all of you. The
Yeah.
symphony is going to be perfect. So let God decide who has a destiny, who has a calling, who has even the mother who raises children. My mother raised all those children. She's not in the news. She's not in any book. And yet I know how grand she was. She was a great
Yeah.
woman. And so all this to say, it's not only the ones that are in the limelight that are great. No. And sometimes we have to be careful because they have a hidden whatever. So no,
Yeah.
the maestro is there. We just have to keep our eye on him. So when he says, hey, your turn, okay, tap, 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 you take up your
Yeah.
instrument and you play. And then life is going to be a harmonious melody.
I like this example because as a musician, I understand perfectly that in many cases it's not about you putting all the notes in there. Maybe it's just you hitting two, three notes, and that really just colors the
Yes,
song in a way that it's unique. And it didn't need the 3,000 notes. It just the three notes that really
that's right.
gave it the color than that what it needed. So I really like that example. So we're going to be wrapping this up. It's been flying this episode.
I was just thinking that.
And yeah, and coming, talking about the Team Jesus, and what you were saying, and I really like this of how we are going beyond tra- the classical, the traditional way that we saw Jesus into this new way of seeing Jesus. So let's say that our audience is the first time that they see us here. What is this new Jesus, let's say, that you're presenting, Diane? What is it, if this was the first time somebody heard you or heard us, that wants to go beyond the traditional Jesus that we find in Christianity? What other attributes, fruits would does this Jesus have that we can really learn from?
Okay? To answer your question, Santiago, people need to know that Jesus is here now. His spirit is here. He's here. His spirit of truth is Jesus without his human body. But that doesn't mean to say he's not here. He's here more than we can even think of and conceive. And so to there was a time, and I believe that there's no mistake. It happened because it had to happen that way, to glorify Jesus as the Son of God, this
Hmm.
divine being that was so far from us. It was like there's God and Jesus and us. But now that we know a lot about the divine side of Jesus, we need to bring the human Jesus back on the ground, on earth, and to keep the divine and to commune with him, to ask him to reveal himself in and through us, to have him live in us and through us for the good of all and the glory of God. And so it's the communion, it's the marriage. Talk about the most beautiful marriage, the most beautiful wedding. It's to have the soul commune with the Father through the Son, and to have this wedding that we speak, we think, we speak, and we act in union with him. And so Jesus becomes very human, very real, very beautiful. And to see that when we look at our brothers and sisters, we don't only see skin and bones, we see their spirit. This is why, sometimes when you look at someone and they look at you straight in the face, and what do you say? You think, oh, I like that person. They're honest. They're straightforward. When you see, like this, like
Yeah.
that, you say, I'm on my, I'm cautious, And so to have Jesus, his spirit live in us and express, so the HD mode can become a reality, because we're going toward light in life whether we like it or not. And so we're helping our brothers and sisters that when you and I and the whole world is going to be in heaven, they're going to be here on earth. They're going to be entering light in life. So we are the first seeds, the first, again, the cycle, just like when the organic movement or the fitness
Yeah.
movement was starting, it was just a few. And now it's all over the planet. So now what we're doing today is going to be all over the planet in a while. And we will have contributed individually to help this new growth, this new world to live in HD mode, in our human and divine mode, because to end, I would like to say that what crosses my mind, Santiago, is that
Hmm.
we are almost deifying machines, especially with artificial intelligence. Okay, it's great. It seems to be. I am not, and I'm not into that. I'm not the most knowledgeable about artificial intelligence, but what I hear is that it's phenomenal, wonderful, but it is machine AI. What about human AI? Our
Yeah.
adjuster intelligence. And so we also have our human version of that. And this is why, before deifying machines, it's as great as the telephone invention or the internet or whatever, which will be at our service, complementary with us. But instead, let's deify God through his Son, acting, living in and through us to inspire people and make this world a better world, the way it should be.
I like what you said about this, this expanded Jesus, and My take, what you're saying of living or seeing both his divine and human nature. I think it's very important that we see the human
Yes.
nature, which is the one that we can relate to, that we can understand. Apart from, like you said, first we had to see the glorified Jesus, the beyond. But now we're seeing that he was relatable. He came to this world to become one of us, to understand us, and that we understand him. So that's one of the things I take from this conversation. And also the spirit of truth, like you said, that even though he's not physically here, that Jesus isn't here, in his material way, his spirit lives with us. And that's something that he left when he departed this world, the spirit of truth that lives within all of us, not just the fragment of God the Father that we all have, but we have that spirit of truth that when we're ever in doubt, when we're ever at a crossroads where we do not know where to go, and that it's
Yes.
always in there, that it's going to point us into the right direction. So always be conscious that we have these spirits within us that help us, right?
Yes. And what's beautiful is that as you were talking, I just got to realize that, to understand that it was actually meant to be, because the way it happened, humanity was made to discover first and foremost, uno, first, the Son of God,
Mm-hmm.
who he is, to respect him, to accept him, to glorify the Father with him, and all this. Now it's time to discover the Son of Man, capital M, so that
Yes.
it will complete the two. And the Son of Man is here, right now, more than we can even conceive. But he's as well the Son of God, and omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he sees all, he knows all, and he controls all. So this is why we need to have faith.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and a lot of things that we can talk further, Diane, of this human Jesus and the attributes, and this human divine mode that you're telling us. And I think it's very important that we start understanding, that dual nature, and that as far
Mhm.
as we understand it, the more that we understand this, the more that we can understand our nature, and use our full existence. So thank you for coming. We're going to have to close now. It was really fast, so thank you for this. Definitely, we'll have other talks to further this more. And I also wanted to thank our audience for joining us. Remember to subscribe if you like this, and not only to share this, digitally, but also to tell people that if what you heard here you liked it, you think it's interesting, to tell that we're talking about stuff that might, like be something interesting to them as well, and something that might be heartfelt for them as well. So in the
Thank
meantime,
you for inviting
thank you,
me.
Diane. Any other words before we leave?
I send you and the rest of the world a whole lot of love. We need it. And so I send in, oh, actually, this is still Valentine's Day.
Yes,
So
yes.
God's love be with all of us, and let's do good to one another.
Perfect. I like that. I like that.
Okay?
Perfect. Thank you, Diane. And thanks, everybody. I'm Santiago
Pleasure.
Nilan. This is The Divine Within. Take care and carpe diem. On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.